Everyone, and very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much for joining us for the 5th edition of our online Meliá Business Breakfast series, to which this morning we are delighted to be joined by Kevin Foster MP, who is the Minister for Future Borders and Immigration at the UK's Home Office. So we're shortly going to be beginning this session with an introduction from Eduardo Barcina, who is the President of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the UK, following which the Chamber's Treasurer, Nacho Morais, will provide a brief biographical introduction of our guest speaker. The Minister will then be sharing his insight with us on the latest developments regarding the post-Brexit immigration system and the implications that this will incur on international British and Spanish businesses and their workforces, before which we're going to have plenty of time for you to ask any questions that you might have to the Minister. Okay, please refer to the instructions on the screen that you can see right now regarding the 3 ways in which you can submit your questions for the Minister, and we're going to do our very best to answer as many of these as we have time for. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the Chamber's President.
Morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining the Meliá Breakfast online business meeting. I also welcome especially those who are joining and connecting from Spain. The Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the United Kingdom is honored to welcome today the Minister for Future Borders and Immigration, Mr. Kevin Foster. Minister, I should start with an apology. Typically, under normal circumstances, we will have provided you with a splendid Spanish breakfast at the Meliá White House. So I'm afraid today it will be a more humble experience, but we do hope that in the near future we will be exciting exercises. The first time we are doing something together with the Home Office. We have an excellent relationship with the Department for International Trade and the Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy. So we are delighted to expand this dialogue with other departments in Her Majesty's government. Immigration has been at the very center of the Brexit debate, and that's why we are here at the Chamber, are pleased to have you, Minister, with us. Never before the dialogue between Spanish companies and the UK government has been so vital. Spain is the 7th largest direct investor in the United Kingdom. Our companies create around 150,000 jobs in the UK, and we continuously to create wealth, opportunities for the local communities, and prosperity for the British people. On January the 1st, 2021, the United Kingdom will materially change its immigration system. The post-Brexit immigration policy of the so-called UK points-based system will change the way companies hire and recruit workers. We do understand, Minister, that freedom of movement will cease to exist between the UK and the EU. But it's very important to reiterate today that whichever the final immigration scheme is, it should allow for a healthy degree of flexibility for companies, and I'm thinking of Spanish companies today, to quickly recruit and organize teams for sectors like hospitality, energy, or construction. Also, some Spanish companies may actually have concerns about those workers who do not meet the skill or salary requirements, but are needed in particular trade sectors. Or even worse, is the system likely to be very bureaucratic? These are all questions that come to our mind, and I will leave it here, Minister, but I want to reiterate our gratitude for making time to speak to members of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce and for actively engaging in strengthening relations between the United Kingdom and Spain. And I will now turn to the Treasurer, who will provide a short summary of your biography. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, and thank you for joining us today, Minister Foster. Today we have with us as I said, Kevin Foster, who is the Member of Parliament for Turvey, and also the Home Office Minister for Immigration and Future Borders. And the minister was born in Plymouth. His father worked at the Devonport Dockyard, and his mother was a teaching assistant. his political activity started quite early, since he has been since the 90s collaborating in campaigns, etc. After his studies, he went to university. He read law at Warwick University, and he also took a master's in international economic law. And during this period, to help fund his studies, he was a factory worker and a barman, and that I think probably it gives you quite a few abilities to use in Parliament. And then he was called to the bar in Inner Temple, and he worked for an MEP in the West Midlands. And professionally, in his legal career, he worked as criminal defender paralegal, and then eventually the opportunity came to join the Coventry City Council, where he started his proper political career, where he even reached the position of deputy leader. And due to a family health circumstance, he went back to Devon, and during there, it came the opportunity to present his candidacy to be the Conservative candidate for Torbay. And he was elected in 2015 and re-elected in 2017 and 2019. As an MP, he was involved in the Public Affairs Committee, and in 2019 he was called to join the Government Whip's office, as well as being a junior minister for Wales, and Minister for the Constitution, that I assume in the last few years has been a very interesting occupation. He occupied those positions during the main administration, and went on occupying them during the Johnson administration. After the last election, he was elected to his current position as Minister for Immigration and Future Borders at the Home Office. He's I think the 6th Minister for Immigration since 2016, so I think by now it makes you a veteran in the position. And so, well, thank you very much, Minister Foster. Thank you for devoting this time to us, and I will leave you to it. The virtual floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. And yes, it was certainly an interesting time to be Minister of the Constitution last summer with all what was going on then, and now to be the Minister of Immigration as we look forward to making some quite major changes. So yes, it's certainly an interesting time. Thank you for that generous introduction. But yes, we do find ourselves in unprecedented times, and hence having to do this talk this way rather than as described with a lovely Spanish breakfast and in person. And I think we all recognise the coronavirus pandemic is the biggest crisis we've faced in our lifetimes, and has affected us all in particular ways. But now more than ever, it brings home we will need people, regardless of nationality, to continue coming together, using their skills and expertise to look out for one another and to support the recovery of our economy. In the UK, Spanish doctors, nurses and paramedics are already playing a leading role in the NHS's efforts to fight coronavirus and save lives. And I'd love to thank those who are doing that. Our new immigration system has therefore been designed to make sure the NHS will continue to be able to access and celebrate their talent. This will be in the form of the new fast-track Nhs Visa for those with job offers in the NHS, or to be clear, for those who are going to work for companies that provide NHS services, and they will be very much involved in doing that work. This will see our standard visa fee reduce, and applicants will be guaranteed a decision of whether they can work in the UK or not within just 3 weeks. More widely, and it was touched on in some introductions, we know some employers are concerned that overly bureaucratic or costly application processes may stifle their ability to recruit the talent and expertise they need. This is why we're also working alongside the new system on creating a lighter touch and simplified and streamlined sponsorship process to be introduced from 2022. whilst the Law Commission earlier this year produced a report on simplifications of the immigration system, and we're taking that forward as part of our work on the new system. As part of this, we are aiming to reduce the visa processing time for the majority of skilled workers to 2 or 3 weeks. And skilled workers will also be able to switch easily between employers with a sponsor license. And we will introduce a lighter touch regime for trusted employers who have a good record of compliance in our immigration system. Furthermore, the new system ensures we will continue to welcome millions of visitors to the UK every year. And as is currently the case, and to confirm again, Spanish nationals coming as visitors will continue to be able to use e-gates at the border and will not need to obtain a visa, allowing them to visit for up to 6 months. For those Spanish nationals and their families already living in the UK, or for those who will come before the 31st of December this year, we want them to stay. We welcome them, they are friends, our neighbours, and we have guaranteed their rights under the European Settlement Scheme. The European Settlement Scheme has been fully open since the 30th of March last year, and EU, other EEA and Swiss citizens, plus their family members, have until the 30th of June next year to apply. And we've also been clear that we will accept late applications where there are reasonable grounds for doing so. And to be clear, it is a simple process. Applicants only need to complete 3 key steps: prove their identity, show they live in the UK, and declare any criminal convictions. We've designed it to be as simple and straightforward as possible, and there's a wide range of support available online, over the phone, and in person to help people apply to the EU settlement scheme. And this support has been available throughout the recent period. In addition to this, last year the Home Office made up to 9 million available to 57 voluntary and community sector organisations across the UK to help vulnerable or at-risk EEA citizens to apply. And we've made a further 8 million of funding available for this financial year. Additional support is available for those who do not have the appropriate access, skills, or confidence to apply online for assisted digital, which can offer assistance over the telephone to make applications as well. And also, again, to assist, we've translated the communications materials into 26 different languages, and alternative formats can also be requested. It's also something that employers may wish to prompt some of their staff to do. It's the most people are applying via a telephone app, and finding it takes about 10 minutes. And to be clear, we are still continuing to receive around 2,000 applications every day, and that's been consistent throughout the recent period as well. So the system has been open and people have been applying. And we'll say that individuals continue to apply using any laptop or mobile device, and they can use the EU Exit ID document check app to complete the identity stage of their application. And we have now reopened the postal route this last week to ensure that we can get as many applications in as possible. And again, I'd reiterate, EU citizens are our friends, they're our neighbours. In many cases, they're our family as well. We want them to stay, we want them to feel welcome to stay, and we want to encourage them to stay. And that's why we have the European Settlement Scheme and have made it as relatively simple as we have. And we've now got to a point where over 3.5 million people have applied and over 3 million decisions have been made. So it is the largest documentation ever of UK immigration status, and we hope that it's something that can set a model for future reforms of a more wider migration system, so with the lessons learned from it. But turning to the future migration system, I suspect many will want to hear more about our future plans for a new points-based migration system. I think we're clear that the new system will be fairer, firmer, and skills-led. To be clear, the points-based system will provide, in our view, a simple, effective, and flexible set of arrangements for skilled workers from Spain and around the world, including Latin America, to come to the UK once freedom of movement has ended, and it will be introduced from the 1st of January 2021. We will treat people from Spain and every part of the world equally, based on what they have to offer, not on where their passport originates from. In the past, EU nationals have had an automatic right to come and work in the UK, irrespective of their skills or qualifications, but this will change. All applicants will need to demonstrate they have a job offer from a Home Office approved sponsor. the job offer is at the required skill level and they speak English to the required level. We have, though, made some of the changes, and we'll be making some of the changes following the recommendations of the Migration Advisory Committee. We will be reducing the general salary threshold under the scheme from 30,000 to 25,600. We will also change the skills threshold from degree level, what we term RQF6, to A level and its equivalent, which is what we term as RQF3 to 5 and above. And this is to ensure we can capture a wider range of the types of skills many employers need, rather than just the purely academic ones. And we've also commissioned the Migration Advisory Committee to advise on producing a shortage occupation list covering all jobs encompassed by the new skilled worker route, and to keep the list under regular review. The significance of this is that extra tradable points will be allocated for occupations the MAC determines to be in national shortage, with a lower salary threshold for recruitment of £20,480. And this therefore provides some temporary relief for certain shortage areas. And there's a call to evidence that's just been launched by the Migration Advisory Committee. I'd certainly encourage businesses who are part of this meeting this morning to put in their own evidence to that, and so it can be considered. Students will also be covered by the points-based system in a slightly different way. They'll need to demonstrate they have an offer from an approved educational institution, they speak English to the required level for their course, and are able to support themselves during their studies in the UK. Yet we're also taking the opportunity to simplify several aspects of the current Tier 4 system to make it easier to administer for sponsors. And we'll be publishing further details of this in due course, including some of the detailed guidance around exactly how that will operate. We also want to ensure we are attracting the brightest and best talent from across the world to drive the UK economy forward. And we therefore open the reformed global talent route to EU citizens on the same basis as non-EU citizens on the 1st of January. This is the route which was launched on the 19th of February and expands upon what was the Tier 1 exceptional talent route. And as part of those reforms, we removed the cap and expanded the list of eligible science fellowships to benefit from accelerated entry to the UK from across the world. We've also introduced a new fast-track scheme for world-leading scientists, top researchers and mathematicians to come to the UK, managed by UK Research and Innovation. This enables UK-based research projects in receipt of recognised prestigious grants and awards to recruit top global talent, regardless of what passport they hold, and base them here in the United Kingdom. Those changes were the first step in delivering the government's election manifesto commitment to actively recruit leaders in their field to come to the United Kingdom. And we are continuing to work closely with the recognised endorsing bodies under the global talent route and the wider scientific community in developing these proposals in order to ensure they cover the needs of this sector most effectively. And again, very keen to having feedback from those involved with the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in that area. We're also looking to develop an additional element of our immigration system, which is to add an unsponsored element to the points-based system for those of exceptional potential and skill. This would provide for the most highly skilled to enter the UK without a job offer under the points-based system with the endorsement of a relevant competent body in their area. This route would be capped and would be carefully monitored during the implementation phase, but we will be exploring with stakeholders in the coming year how this could work and look forward to engagement with the partners that are taking part in this call on it. Because it's worth me touching on more general areas of recruitment, not least in the context of the numbers of people we know will be needing to look for new employment. And we saw 100,000 people, for example, make new universal credit applications in a week during the recent period, really bringing home the impact for all living in the United Kingdom, not just UK nationals, but EU nationals and others based here, of the measures necessary to tackle COVID-19. And to be clear, as part of the new immigration system, we will not be implementing a dedicated route for generally recruiting abroad to fill roles paid at or near the minimum wage. You know, we do recognise the tremendous contribution people are making to keep vital services running during this incredibly difficult time. This includes those working in a range of industries and occupations which may not qualify under the future system. We accept these are roles this country needs, which is why they should be valued, with the immigration system not being an alternative option to investing in and rewarding well those who undertake them. This is going to be, again, especially relevant as we look at the numbers of people who may well need to find new employment opportunities due to lost jobs in the travel, retail and hospitality sector as a result of the economic impacts of the recent period. We do, though, believe that the new migration system is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build a better future in which the UK has the skills our country needs so the economy thrives, but again, making sure that our migration policies work as part of our overall labour market strategies, not as an alternative to them. And we're clear that, we know this will mean changes for some businesses, but change is vital if we are to deliver a high skill, high wage and high productivity economy after coronavirus, where the focus is, especially in our social care sector, on creating rewarding and attractive packages to bring job seekers into them. Initiatives have already been introduced for those in the agricultural sector, which provide businesses with additional flexibility in the shorter term. And these will build on the seasonal agricultural workers pilot, which we've expanded to 10,000 places this year, 10,000 places for non-EEA nationals. We also want to continue to build on our youth mobility arrangements, and we'll discuss the scheme as part of any trade negotiations with the EU later this year. We are clear we want to agree a system which will give Europe's next generation the chance to come and experience the UK alongside those from the 8 countries we already have such an agreement with, including Canada, Japan and New Zealand. If we cannot secure a youth mobility agreement with the EU, then we'll most certainly look to secure bilateral ones with member states, especially Spain, who we've enjoyed a long and friendly relationship with. So in conclusion, for the first time in decades, the UK will have a single system of migration rules based on a fairer, firmer, skills-led system. It will support our economic recovery by prioritising and investing in people in the UK, whilst welcoming those from across the globe who have something to offer. And it will be based at its core on treating people from Spain and every part of the world equally, based on the skills and talents they can offer, not where their passport comes from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. It has been a very insightful conversation and allocution to our members, and I appreciate the support and the appreciation that you have for EU citizens. Just reading the last the last update from the Home Office on the EU settlement scheme, it reflects you saying that EU citizens are part of the fabric of our society and that they are our friends, family and neighbors, enriching our culture and community, something that is greatly appreciated. So now we go to the Q&A. So first, I wanted to ask you a question that comes from a hospitality company. That it's a double question. First, it's on internships. The thing is that many companies have been hiring interns from Spain, and they want to know if in the new regime they will still be allowed to still receive interns, even if it's for this 6 months period, so not exceeding the 6 months period. That obviously interns normally don't fill in all the boxes in the point system. And the second is, when you talk about qualification, will there be some kind of further development in what that qualification means? Because the thing is that on one side, it seems that it's finished high school, but maybe there are people who haven't finished high school, but they have gone to a hospitality school that has given them additional education. Will there be any more any more clarifications in this respect?
Okay, perhaps if I take the second question first, and I might ask Stuart to just briefly cover the provisions on internships and other areas, because it's a slightly more complex piece of our immigration rules. But in terms of qualifications, levels or equivalent, so it's not purely having A levels. Example I can give is chefs will qualify as RQF3, and that's been a particular issue in the hospitality industry around pubs. I'm going to say if the cooks, a generic cook is RQF2, but a chef, and there's particular qualifications that would reflect. And again, it's why we're partly asking the Migration Advisory Committee to advise us on exactly where the shortage occupation list should be. So to be clear, it's not just academic qualifications, and that's probably the biggest impact of dropping from RQF6 degree level to RQF3, is it does bring in quite a range of skilled trades that are, for example, further education colleges in the UK or hospitality schools, or that someone may gain through other professional walks. So it won't just be having to have completed school in an academic sense and done skills if there are skills elsewhere. And the level of English that's required in our general migration system, so it's called be conversational daily life, part of your job English. It would be, there are tougher requirements in particular professions, but those would apply to recruitment today anyway. And if Stuart perhaps wants to cover internships, and there are provisions for certain work experience, certain visits, and there will be provisions for intercompany transport transfers as well under the new migration system. That's perhaps a slightly more complex area that Stuart may have some thoughts from.
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, exactly. And there will be we'll be publishing further guidance in due course over the summer on precisely how specific routes are going to operate, with guidance for individuals applying to come to the UK. The two things I'd like to flag specifically are, sort of building on what the Minister said earlier in his opening remarks. We will be looking proactively at the ways in which we can establish youth mobility arrangements between the UK and Spain, whether that's through the EU or bilaterally. And secondly, it's worth flagging to your members the flexibility in the business visits rules, which again will provide further detail on in due course, which will allow certain provisions which might be of assistance to those wishing to come to the UK on internships, subject of course to certain provisions being met. And finally, as the Minister says, ICTs remains open to companies in order to employ individuals in these kinds of circumstances. But as ever, if there are specific questions after the meeting, we're very happy to pick that up separately.
Okay, thank you very much. And next question will come from a special guest, because he's the manager of the Meliá White House, and if it was not for the COVID crisis, we would be celebrating this event in his hotel and having a delicious breakfast. So, and I think, Adam, can you hear us? Can you speak?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm good to go.
Thank you very much, Adam. So go ahead.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning. I represent Meliá Hotels International, the sponsor of the said event today. We've got 4 hotels in the UK and 2 under construction in the north of the UK. As you know, hospitality depends on overseas workers to support primarily the frontline operation. And in simple terms, in my 20 odd years in this business, British people don't necessarily apply for entry-level jobs. Will the points-based system and the salary cap put the hospitality industry at a disadvantage? For example, the entry-level salary of a room cleaner or a bartender would be £19,200, which falls way below the salary cap that the government planned to impose.
I think what we'd say is, first of all, I think we'll look forward to a day when the hospitality industry is thinking about recruitment again, rather than, certainly from my own my own constituents, I know that there's potentially very serious job losses coming in the hospitality sector over the next few months, and sadly we just can't hide from that, given what's happened and the ongoing impact on customers' willingness to travel. And I would say we're probably, and just some anecdotal evidence, and obviously we're analysing it with our colleagues in the DWP, is actually things have turned around in terms of UK job seekers are now very interested in areas like social care, which perhaps they've not been interested in for different times, and partly that reflects the reality of the economic conditions we have. What I would say on it is first, in terms of, there's a range of hospitality jobs we know people struggle to recruit under our current system, such as chefs and some skilled roles that will most definitely come under the new points-based threshold, and you'll be able to recruit globally to those. So literally, if you wish to recruit an Indian chef to enhance your offer, or perhaps someone from Latin America who's got particular skills or things to bring some exciting things into your kitchen, it'll be much simpler for you to do that. The other way round, we are clear that we're not going to have a sort of free movement by the back door, but we do have the youth mobility schemes, which at the moment about 20,000 come under from 8 countries. And that is one that you can come for 2 years, aged between 18 and 30. And that's perhaps one where in the past was more known about, because it was something that employers more like to use. And as I touched on, we'd like to get one with the EU. That would mean the numbers under that scheme, by the way, would go up. We're not going to divide 20,000 by 10 for sake of argument. And that would be a route that would allow it. And again, as I touched on, we're also keen, if we can't get one with the corporate body of the EU, we will seek to get one with individual countries, and certainly Spain, Germany, or certainly countries that will be very high on our list of priorities. That one's, it's a discounted fee, and you just have to pay the IHS. So it's quite a good system. We're also, those who are graduating will be able to stay for going to the graduate route, which is 2 years, and there isn't a salary limit on that one for those looking to set up businesses, to start out in jobs. Probably accept less use in terms of some more entry-level roles, but again is one that makes it easier to recruit people in to work. And the other fact is, in looking at the Migration Advisory Committee, and they did advise against, I have to say, having a general route to just recruit overseas. But where they pointed out was under our current thresholds, so £30,000 salary a year, level skill qualification, 170,000 non-EEA citizens have over the recent years migrated to the UK and are currently working in our economy. Now, and that's with those two very high thresholds. So with those dropping down to RQF3, so for example, the example I give is under our system, nurses can be recruited as long as they meet the national NHS pay scale, which to stop it being undercut, basically. They can come here, and their wife or husband, as a dependent, can come as well, and then can seek employment generally in the UK labour market. So we do expect there will be a flow, and I think most people can probably work out that RQF6 going to RQF3 will mean that there will be slightly more non-EEA and rest of the world migration, including then still migration from the EU and EEA under that. And then dependents, adult dependents, would then be able to, them and partners would be able to seek employment. And I think it's something like, as Stuart, I think it's more, it's something like 70% of current rest of the world migration, a dependent migrates with them who has access to the wider labour market. So that would then be entry level, any role they can work at in the UK.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you, Minister. I would like just to remind the audience of the different tools that we have for you to share questions with us that you can see in this screen. So now the next person who will make a question will be Nuria Corominas. That is the I cannot see her right now, so probably we will put her on a next questions. But Albert Cole from Banco Sabadell, another patron from the chamber, will make the next question.
Yes, good morning, Minister. Thank you for your comments. I have to say that as a keen sailor, I feel inclined to ask you whether the picture behind you is certainly Devon or Torquay, should I say? But
Torquay Harbour.
But I am a customer of bricks and fish markets, so I hope you don't take this against me. The question of a more mundane subject today is obviously on the situation that you manage. I think as an employer in the UK, we are a large employer. We own TSB, and even though that is a pretty much independent UK-based operation, we do have flow of employees back and forth. My question to you is both in the short term related to any potential COVID passports and more in the longer term, how does the conversations with countries, and I'm saying that at the point where I see in the press that the Prime Minister is going to hold talks with Mrs. von der Leyen on a European basis, but the specific question is, do you think there is room to maneuver to have bilateral talks with countries that are more leveraged towards the UK, as is the case of Spain?
Yes, I think certainly we're more than happy to talk directly with Spain, and with TSB, I've actually got a branch in St Mary Church, part of my constituency, so which is quite water valued. But in terms of it, yes, there is. Although I would say it's more, I'd say on the EU side, they're very keen that there isn't lots of talks on the side between the UK and individual member states around the core free trade. Free trade agreement is what we're looking to do, and I can partly understand why, is that they don't okay to benefit from potentially 27 different opinions on what the EU's position should be, and then present that to Ursula von der Leyen as well, what the position should be. But we've been clear that on, for example, matters like youth mobility, if we can't get an agreement with the EU, our next step would then be to talk to individual member states. Spain, a particular one that would be a priority for that, if we could get a good agreement to facilitate those, and in other areas. But I think, again, it's more, we're happy to do it, but I suspect the EU side will be quite clear in terms of wider talks that they want to make sure there's a single consistent message with the UK, rather than in many ways perhaps allowing us to find different views from different member states and then present them back to the European Union. But certainly we do look to continue our productive relationships and conversations, and there will be a system under the UK's rules for intercompany transfer that will be there to ensure about moving staff between the European Union and the United Kingdom, which we can again explain in more detail, and certainly Home Office will be happy to engage with larger employers needing to do that on a more regular basis. Plus, one of the things we're quite keen about under the exceptional global talent route is those companies that recruit across the globe the next generation of skilled managers, senior managers. I think particularly some of the global talent routes some major European companies have, is whether we could explore using that route to allow some of those to be based in the United Kingdom, and to allow literally a company that has recruited across the globe irrespective of passports into this area. And there are some quite amazing schemes with some quite niche areas, but they're still phenomenal ones. We'd like to have this future based in the UK, that's for sure. And whether we can look under that area to having a reasonably simple process for them to be able to assemble that global talent group here in the UK, and ultimately, if they settle here, they then get the benefits of UK passports and some of the arrangements we have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, it was my fault. I managed to find our Vice President, Nuria Corominas. And Nuria, can you see us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you and see you. I don't know if you can see me.
We can see you.
See it.
So perfect. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Hello. Hello, and thank you, Minister, for this interesting presentation. And as Nacho has said, I'm Nuria Corominas. I also work for Roman, which is a PR agency that manages communications of companies in the UK, right? The great majority of our clients are Spanish. They're small, medium, also big companies, multinationals, all from different sectors. And my question is, which is the best advice that you could give to those small and medium ones, SMEs, that were looking to invest in the UK, bringing even some of their staff from Spain or from other European countries, but they feel that they got caught up by the Brexit process?
Okay. I think the advice I'd give people is to look at the points-based system. We intend it to be simpler, to be easier to understand, and we're partly also going through a process of making our routes and tiers and everything else to be much easier to understand. We actually want most companies to be able to use our migration system without having to go to legal advice, because that's when the cost of it starts to go up quite significantly. I think my view would be is look at the sponsorship procedures. We're making them simpler. As long as people are complying with the spirit and the way of the system, we want to be able to work more proactively with them. We've done some really good work with universities and education sector over the last 10 years. It was an area that used to be subject to a lot of abuse from an immigration perspective. Now, very high compliance, doing well. And most, for example, universities have a direct contact at UKVI. So if there's a problem with the visa for bringing someone in, they can have a direct conversation with someone at the Home Office to talk through what the problem is and where they're going. I appreciate there's obviously wider trade discussions that companies looking to relocate here will wish to see, particularly around recognition of standards, posted workers and other things, which we could probably have a very long conversation about today, and probably isn't my direct brief. Mine's the fundamental ground rules of recruiting people from abroad into the UK directly. But what I'd say to a lot of people is, if you're looking to base a team of skill and talents, let's say it's a tech business from Spain, you'll be able to locate it, for example, in London and recruit from across the globe. The system applies across the whole world. And it is a system that's fairly clear, that's fairly easy, we hope will be a lot easier to engage with than our current system for recruiting across the world, and will allow you to bring a raft of talent, not just from the European Union, but from Latin America as well, into the United Kingdom to work with you, provided they meet some of the skills and requirements that are there. The only difference is going to be is that we're not going to have a general route for bringing those into work at the minimum wage or slightly above it. For companies looking to set up their operations, and it's a sad fact of the reality of what's happened in the last month or two. We're not expecting there to be a shortage of people able to be recruited in the UK economy over the next year, and I suspect sadly it'll be the same in Spain as well, given the almost certain economic impacts of what the tragic circumstances we've seen recently.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have a question from a civil engineering company. They say, okay, we have some civil engineers who currently fall under the shortage occupation list, and they intended to bring them prior to the end of June, so they could apply under the EU settlement scheme. Since it is not safe to travel during COVID-19, as per your opening statement, are they now able to travel to the UK later in the year and then apply for the settlement scheme before the 31st of December?
Simple yes. Any EU, EEA or qualifying Swiss who is in the UK for the 31st of December this year can apply to the European settlement scheme. And they've actually got till June next year is the deadline for them to actually apply to it. And if someone literally just arrived, if I can put it that way, they could apply straight away. As long as they could evidence they lived here, then they would be granted what we call pre-settled status. And then 5 years' time, if they work here continuously, they could then apply for settled status under the European settlement scheme. And both those applications would be free of charge.
Thank you very much. We have now another question from Sylvia Ferret, who is a senior associate at law firm, the DLA Piper. She says, what will be the entry requirement for graduates who come to the UK to learn English perhaps end up working in a cafe for some time to help finance their stay, and eventually find a job opportunity and wish to stay. What happens to au pairs? These two scenarios reflect the position of many Spaniards who come to the UK for the first time.
Okay, I'm going to split things out slightly. If someone graduates from one of our universities, who's a tier 4 visa, then they qualify for the new graduate route, which is being introduced next summer. Of course, any Spanish national graduating this year in the UK will be able to find work under the current freedom of movement principles from next year. They'd still, of course, like to be European settlement scheme, but let's say someone from Latin America who's been here on a tier 4 visa and has completed their degree, they can then apply to the graduate route. That gives them 2 years to find work, and that's and having graduated, they will have an English language qualification. So that starts that one. If it's someone who's graduated in Spain, who's coming here, first you'd suspect they might be applying for jobs at a more graduate level, which clearly will qualify under the scheme. If people want to come here for a couple of years before they're 30 to improve their English language ability, then they can come under the Youth Mobility Scheme. We find that's relatively popular with Japanese students, for example. Hong Kong's another place that we have the Youth Mobility Agreement with, and that would be for up to 2 years. And whilst, as it stands in the current rules, they couldn't then apply to settle if you perfected your English, for sake of argument, returned to Spain, and then secured yourself a job offer to come back, that would be seen as actually a positive in your immigration application, that you had 2 years here without any problems and have complied with your visa. So we are looking at what we can do for those with exceptional talent. For example, if someone's got a PhD and who's qualified to Spain, provided they came to a fairly basic level of English, then similarly they'd be able to come into the UK. But we're probably talking about people whose level of skills and training is so high, they're likely to have included learning the English language as well as part of that if they're planning to work more internationally.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have a few questions from Judith Mora, that is the London correspondent of Agencia EFE, that is the Spain's international newswire. And she had 3 very quick questions. And first, is the UK willing to establish an air bridge with Spain or other bilateral measures to facilitate travel this summer and beyond? As a background, you may know that from July 1st, Spain is open for holidays. And second is, given the number of British citizens living in Spain and the amount of British tourists, what specifically bilateral arrangements in travel, health, pensions, immigration is the UK considering for implementation after the 31st of December? And third, with regards to the quarantine starting of 8th of June, that a Spanish person resident in the UK that goes back to the country on a Spanish passport needs to show at the border a document proving either British nationality or settled status.
Right. In terms of, let's go through. If I deal perhaps with the 2 that relate to the quarantine proposals, as we'll call them. To be clear, the quarantine proposals apply to all, including UK nationals. The only difference being those who are not UK resident may be turned around at the border if they refuse to comply with the requirements to nominate where they will isolate for two weeks. But to be clear, it applies to UK nationals, Republic of Ireland nationals as well in terms of coming into the United Kingdom. So there isn't a difference in terms of passports. And how we are hoping we can agree with is that check-in, and it's a form you can fill in quite simply online. We also expect that there will be some ability to do that if you realise when you've landed you haven't done it. Journeys within the common travel area will be exempted though. So, for example, a Spanish citizen who lives in Northern Ireland who flies to London would not be covered by a number of Spanish nationals travelling by air within the United Kingdom. They wouldn't be covered they would be exempted in the same way as those UK nationals would be. It'll come in on the 8th. In terms of air bridges, what we've said is we will review the position every 3 weeks. In the ideal position we'd like to get to is having, can we get agreed pre-departure checks? But for now, we felt it was right that we were clear what our provisions would be as travel became more possible to the United Kingdom. And to give people some background, we published figures last week of how many people crossed the border in April. And if I recall correctly, it was something like just 112 or 122,000 people crossed the border in April compared to several million in January. So it'll show that the huge contraction there's been in travel. As we're starting to see more things appropriate, we do have a vision in place to protect the United Kingdom against effectively the virus being really imported from border. As to be fair, other countries, including Spain, have had provisions recently which I respect them and would expect UK nationals to comply with. In terms of British citizens, it's a great relationship between our 2 countries. It is rather an odd experience to visit parts of a friend who visited in Torrevieja and finding there's a British pub and an Irish bar and chance to buy steak and chips. I have to say I preferred eating Spanish food when I'm in Spain. It seems a much better option. There's fantastic seafood there than steak and chips, which I can get around the corner. But we're keen to have some good conversations. We had a good conversation with Spain around voting rights in local elections that worked positively, and to continue those conversations. Although, of course, our main focus is, as will be Spain's, in ensuring that we can get a good and positive agreement between the United Kingdom and the European Union that forms the basis for a long, ongoing and positive relationship. But certainly I can see, for example, the work our 2 militaries do together via NATO. There's some really good work there, and the fact that both Spain and the United Kingdom have a strong partnership we can make in terms of helping defend an international rules-based order in our mutual interest at a time when we can see the challenges that are arising to it, not least the moves that Russia has been making in recent years.
Thank you very much. And we have a small follow-up question. Will there be any special regime for au pairs in the new system?
For au pairs, no. There hasn't been a specific au pair provision in the UK's immigration system since 2008. Although a lot of those who'd qualify potentially under a youth mobility agreement with the UK and the European Union, or the UK and Spain, if we had to do it bilaterally, would be fundamentally being au pair would like something to consider. And for clarity, the youth mobility scheme is you can come for 2 years and there's no salary minimum on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question comes from Cristina Nhs from engineering company. Is one of our board members and a very active one, and so thank you, Cristina, for joining us. And please go ahead and make your question to the minister.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, just confirm. Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for your speech. Unfortunately, I missed the first few minutes because I was in a call, duty calls, and I had to attend. So I hope that you didn't say the answer already to my question. But I work for an engineering consultancy firm. We are very much involved in the HS2 project and in some other infrastructure big projects in the UK. And my question is around the recognition of the professional activities, the titles, especially for engineers and architects. As of today, as EU members, when we were EU members, the process for recognition of the engineering or architectural titles was rather simple. You had to present some technical papers and some certificates, but it was quite straightforward. Whereas for the non-EU members, is a more complicated procedure that includes even a re-evaluation of your knowledge in the sector, sort of an exam, so to speak. I would like to ask you if that is going to change from in the next year onwards. If we are going to be submitted to these evaluations and in order to recognize our engineering and architectural titles, we're going to go through that procedure. Thank you.
A lot of that will depend on the agreement that is reached potentially between ourselves and the European Union around mutual recognition. I would say from an immigration point of view, then if, for example, a Spanish civil engineering company was looking to sponsor someone with those level of qualifications to come into the United Kingdom, that wouldn't be an issue. It'll more be the issue around professionally practicing, which certainly I think colleagues in other departments are working on. We're also similarly looking, and I know there's been discussion, I've had specific raised with things like dentists from India, and that sounds a strange one to use, but around how, if we've got a single system of migration, how can we get more points of having trusted qualification standards from abroad? And Spain's education system is very high quality, similar quality to our own, and how that can be done. I think that's going to be part of how we can get a mutual recognition agreement with the European Union. Similarly, we would like that. It wouldn't be an appropriate position to have where UK engineers were having to go for all sorts of things, perhaps in the European Union, and us not apply something reciprocal. But certainly from my perspective, an immigration perspective, I see no reason why, for example, a Spanish engineer would struggle under our points-based system if their qualifications would be well above the RQF level 3, and there likely even to be a shortage of occupation. And if they happen to have a PhD in engineering, STEM engineering, we actually give 20 points under the points-based for a STEM-based PhD, which would mean they actually could come for a salary level at the very start of their career of about 20,000. So there is, in the migration system, we're very much set up to make it easy to recruit STEM and exceptional potential talent in STEM from across the world. In terms of mutual professional recognition standards, that is literally part of the discussions we're having with the European Union to attempt to come to an agreement that's mutual beneficial interest. And similarly, that's an understanding to be also in discussion with the United States as well. So we can try and have a system where we can recognise qualifications to an equivalent standard. Understanding that is part of our future Brexit negotiations. But from an immigration perspective, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. I have more of a question that is a bit maybe out of the box. In terms of the relationship between the UK and Spain, we are, I think, the two countries in the world who have a larger mutual flow of travelers between the two of them. Secondly, we are probably the countries, if we count the EU plus ex-EU, like the UK countries, the ones that have a largest community of people living either in one country or in another. The thing is that here, Spanish people came here to work and they bring human capital that Spain invested. And on the other hand, many people from the UK come to Spain to work, and others come to Spain to retire, and they are very welcome to use our hospitality, our healthcare, etc. The thing is that we have a precedent in the European Union that facilitates much more the flow. That is Ireland. The thing is that, given the very unique circumstances that there are between Spain and the UK, could a kind of Irish solution be practicable for the relationship between Spain and the UK?
I think the Irish one's a very interesting one, because that's based on the common travel area, which is literally, effectively isn't a border between us and the Republic of Ireland, not just in a sense as well. I every so often get a puzzled constituent who has flown from Dublin to Exeter Airport, for example, and walked out the door and then emails me to demand to know why passport control weren't working that day. And you have to point out to them that actually it's because there is no passport control between us and the Republic of Ireland. I think the difference with doing it on a more wider basis is, one, Spain is part of the Schengen area, whereas the Republic of Ireland isn't. And one of the reasons why they haven't joined is because that would put the common travel area in peril. So Schengen visas are not valid within the common travel area. That for those who are not EU citizens, they have to apply for separate visa permission to travel to the United Kingdom, which sometimes you find at Calais, people discovering that one when they've booked to come on a ferry over to the UK. So we're keen to welcome people. As I say, Spanish citizens will carry on using our e-gates up to 6 months as well. But I suspect to actually join the common travel area with the United Kingdom would probably be a step that would be a little bit too far, and certainly wouldn't be one that a country in the Schengen system could take. But we're certainly looking forward to having very good and positive flows between the UK and Spain. As I said, Spanish citizens are more than welcome to come here without a visa for up to 6 months, and we hope that will be reciprocated in the Schengen system relating to UK citizens travelling into the EU.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it has been a very insightful speech and a great Q&A session. I think we have become much more informed about which is the situation for EU citizens, and especially for Spanish companies to the light of the new immigration system in the UK. So I will pass on the word to Adrián Torres from Ferrovial. Ferrovial is a patron of the chamber. Adrián is a member of our board. Ferrovial is a very important investor in the UK, and as you know, they are the largest shareholder in Heathrow Airport. That it's been somehow affected by the COVID and restrictions of movement, and they are also involved in other large infrastructure projects that I am sure the leveling up agenda and the infrastructure projects that the government will give them the opportunity to participate. So without further ado, Adrián, please go ahead with your closing remarks.
Thank you, Nacho. Good morning, everyone. I would like to take the opportunity to say, in behalf of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in UK, thank you, Mr. Foster, for sharing your valuable time and knowledge about the new immigration system and about the impact that the COVID is having in the area of the Brexit negotiation process. In this difficult and challenging time, I hope that the session has clarified the doubts about the implications that will incur in both British and Spanish business and individuals, and I'm sure that they will help us to face the year ahead with optimism. I would like to remind that we will have the opportunity to meet the Lord Mayor of the City of London in the next session, which will be taking place on the 24th of June. And again, thank you very much to each and every one of you, especially to our guest speakers for sharing his insights. I hope you have a nice day.
Thank you very much. And with this, we conclude the webinar, and it will be in a few hours. It will be available in YouTube for people who wants to catch up with it. Thank you very much, Minister, for your invaluable contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.